Today, we're diving into one of the stranger chapters in the entire book of Leviticus. Seriously, it starts out with these incredibly precise, almost obsessive instructions for sacred rituals. How to keep a lamp lit, how to bake this special bread. And then, out of nowhere, it just completely slams on the brakes and throws us right into the middle of a street fight, a shocking public curse, and the birth of a legal idea that would literally change the world. So you have to ask, right? What in the world is the connection here? How do you get from holy bread and olive oil to a brawl in the street? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to solve. There's this hidden logic that links the quiet, perfect order of a sacred space to the messy, unpredictable chaos of human life. And the answer, believe it or not, gives us this amazing insight into how the ancient world thought about order, justice, and how to build a society. Okay, so here's our roadmap. We'll start with those sacred rituals, the perpetual light and the holy bread. Then we'll get right into the crime that just shatters that peace. And finally, we'll see how that crisis gives birth to two massive ideas, the famous an eye for an eye and the maybe even more important one law for all. It's a journey from sacred order to the very foundations of civil justice. So our story begins inside the holy tabernacle with this thing called the perpetual light. Right away, the chapter is all about setting up a ritual that just cannot fail. And this isn't just about, having enough light to see. It's about creating a physical space that represents constant, unshakable, sacred order in what was, let's face it, a pretty chaotic world. This lamp, which we usually think of as the menorah, was so much more than a lamp. That continuous flame was a powerful physical symbol of God's unending presence with the people of Israel. I mean, can you imagine the pressure? Letting that flame go out would be like symbolically severing the connection to the divine. And just look at how specific the rules are. It had to be only the purest olive oil, a symbol of purity. The flame had to burn constantly, symbolizing permanence. This wasn't just some casual suggestion. The text calls it a statute forever. This is the absolute, non-negotiable bedrock of the relationship between God and the community. All right, now for the second ritual, which builds perfectly on the first. Right after talking about the lamp, we get instructions for the holy bread. So if the light was a symbol of God's presence, then this bread was a symbol of the people living in that presence. Yeah, it was called the bread of the presence. And there were 12 loaves, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. So you get this incredible image, the entire nation, represented by these loaves of bread, constantly sitting there in the presence of God, who is symbolized by that eternal flame. It's a picture of perfect, ordered communion. And just like the lamp, this whole ritual was meticulous. It had to happen every single Sabbath, like clockwork. Fresh bread comes in, the old bread goes out, and it's eaten by the priests. It's this constant, unbroken cycle that reinforces the idea of a living, perpetual agreement. Inside the sacred tent, everything is in its perfect, right place. Okay, so we've got this beautiful scene of perfect, detailed order inside the tabernacle. But just outside that holy space, bam! Human nature is about to crash the party. The story takes this incredibly sharp, dramatic turn from the sacred and the orderly to the messy and the profane. A fight just breaks out in the middle of the camp. And the text gives us this one really crucial detail. One of the guys fighting is the son of an Israelite mother and an Egyptian father. Now, why does that matter? Well, it tells us right away this isn't just some simple squabble between two guys from the same family. It throws a layer of social complexity into the mix right from the get-go. And then the fight escalates. Big time. The man with the mixed heritage blasphemed the name of the Lord and cursed. Now, in a society that is built entirely around a covenant with that very name, this was the ultimate disruptive act. He didn't just break a rule, he attacked the very foundation of their entire world. And this just creates a full-blown crisis. All of a sudden, the community is staring at a crime they literally have no law for. There's no precedent. So what do you do? I mean, how do you possibly restore order when the very source of your order has been attacked? And what they do next is actually pretty amazing. Instead of just instant mob justice, they pause, they put the man in custody, and they wait for guidance. This shows us this is about more than just punishing one guy. It's about establishing a principle for everyone for the future. They are literally waiting for a new law to be born right there in that moment. And the guidance that comes down is, well, it's profound. It starts with a specific punishment for this one man, but it quickly blossoms into this broad legal framework that would go on to shape legal systems for literally thousands of years. And here it is, the famous principle of lex talionis, or the law of retaliation. Put simply, the punishment has to fit the crime. If you take a life is forfeited. If you kill an animal, you have to pay it back. If you cause an injury, a similar injury is the penalty. The whole point is to perfectly balance the scales of justice. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds pretty harsh to us today. But we have to understand the world this came from. This wasn't a free-for-all. It wasn't a license for revenge. In fact, it was the opposite. It was a limit on revenge. It made sure that an eye for an eye didn't become a life for an eye. It was specifically designed to stop those endless, escalating cycles of blood feuds. It's all about proportionality. But the new law isn't done yet. It gives us one more idea. And honestly, it might be the most radical of them all. And it connects everything right back to the man of mixed heritage who started this whole thing. There it is. You shall have one manner of law, as well for the stranger as for one of your own. In other words, the law applies to everyone equally. Now, in a tribal world where all of your rights came from your bloodline and who you are related to, this was an absolutely revolutionary statement. Think about that. The legal standard that came out of a crime committed by a man of mixed descent was then explicitly designed to apply to everyone, regardless of their descent. Justice was supposed to be blind to where you came from. That's a foundational idea that we are still fighting for in our legal systems today. And with that law now established, the sentence is carried out. The story of the crime comes to an end, and that brand new legal process is seen all the way through, showing that the community now has a clear path for dealing with these kinds of disruptions. So, let's connect all the dots. The chapter starts by painting this picture of perfect sacred order, the always lit lamp, the perfectly arranged bread. When that sacred order is shattered by a human crime, a new kind of order is needed to fix it. And that new order is civil law, built on these two huge ideas, proportionality and universal equality. The law becomes the tool to restore and protect the social harmony that the rituals were trying to represent in the first place. And that really leaves us with this final thought. Out of a single, chaotic fight in the desert, this ancient text gave us two principles of justice that have been echoing for millennia: that punishment should fit the crime, and that the law must apply to everyone equally. So the question for us is, how do we see the legacy of that one chaotic moment playing out in our own world right now?